This is the broadcast of Backroads of Illinois. We are bringing latest agricultural news and markets update on Backroads of Illinois. Bring you like inside of the markets and interview with people in the agricultural industry for farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and across the Midwest. Today is edition of Backroads of Illinois. We are Central Illinois agriculture source, and in the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois agriculture, we're glad you're here on a Tuesday afternoon. I am your host, Cesar Delgado for Backroads of Illinois. We were talking about the weather for this harvest season in the Midwest alongside in central Illinois. Otherwise, we'll see beautiful weather conditions for right now with the harvest season. We were talking about that with John Baranek for DTN, and we were talking about the commodities markets with Naomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing. We were getting anything else that it's my birthday today. Yes, I am 27. Geez, I am old man. Ha ha, yeah. Otherwise, this show powered by AgriGold for Central Illinois, your AgriGold reps Brett Lahr. He is your AgriGold reps for Central Illinois. This is your agricultural news and markets update on Backroads of Illinois, sponsored by AgriGold and Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated Lawmakers. They are working with the package for storm relief from Hurricane Helene in Georgia and North Carolina. There's other package for storm relief from Hurricane Milton in Florida. This harvest progress are almost done in central Illinois. Whatever still, there are a lot of harvest progress for everyone in the Midwest. Illinois, it's 85% for this harvest season. The weather is nice to be harvest in central Illinois. This week is National Fit Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's 98th convention for hundreds of students who is going to be attend to the convention in Indianapolis. This been your agricultural news and markets update on Backroads of Illinois by AgriGold Seeds for Central Illinois. We were talking about the weather with John Baranek for next segment. This is open bell numbers of the commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. Corn futures are up at 5 to 10 cents. Soybean futures are up at 3 to 6 cents. Wheat futures are up at 8 to 10 cents. This is your livestock markets update. Cattle futures are up at 3 to 2 cents. Feeder cattle are up at 4 to 8 cents. Lean hogs are up at 4 to 5 cents. Crude oil are down to 8 to 9 cents per barrel. Dow Jones are down to 9 points. This break is present by AgriGold for Central Illinois. AgriGold is best variety of seeds in Central Illinois. Find your AgriGold reps for today. Come. We were talking about the weather for this harvest season in the Midwest alongside in central Illinois. Otherwise, we'll see beautiful weather conditions for right now with the harvest season. We were talking about that with John Baranek for DT, and welcome back.
Thanks for having me on again, Caesar. It's good to talk to you. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful birthday and everything goes well for you today. You're able to celebrate.
I have to work on my birthday.
I usually do too.
Okay, we were seeing in the Midwest and central Illinois, which I like this weather on my birthday today, which is a great danger of fire in the field. Could you explain to our listeners about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Caesar. We've had kind of this upper level air pattern that's been very detrimental to us here for producing rainfall. We've had just an upper level ridge of high pressure, and it's really kept temperatures up, which has been nice. I mean, it's felt like summer on some of these days. Here, I live outside of Minneapolis, and yesterday it was 84 degrees. So getting that in late October is pretty insane. But we've been very warm, but we've also been very dry. Outside of the things that have gone on with some of those hurricanes there, with Helene coming up, that was almost a month ago, or Milton going across Florida. I mean, it's been very, very difficult to get rainfall into really all of the Corn Belt, but especially right here in the middle of it over the last couple of weeks, well, several weeks really. Yeah, we've had a little bit here and there, but it hasn't been overly impressive for many areas. Some areas have seen a very big drop in soil moisture. The rainfall deficits we've seen since the start of the fall are quite severe. I mean, it really doesn't matter where you look at across the region here. We've been very dry. Soil moisture is low. I mean, it's been really good for harvest. I mean, if you've been out there doing some field work, it's kind of nice. You haven't had very many disruptions at all, really, to go off of. But when we think about this time of year, yeah, that's kind of our main focus is getting the crop off the field and either selling it or getting it stored away. And we haven't had many disruptions to that. But we need to set ourselves up for next year too. And to do that, we need some big storm systems to get some rainfall to come through. And we just haven't had that yet. A lot of the systems that we've been going through are small fronts, and they've been moving our temperatures around a little bit, and it has gotten chillier at some points here. But for the most part, that ridge has kept us warm and dry, and really sapped a lot of our soil moisture here east of the Rockies. So it's a big concern really going here for the rest of the fall season and into the winter. We'll see if we can change that around a bit. We've got some potential here next week, actually. We've got this finally, what we're going to see is this big upper level trough move into the west, and that kind of provides the energy to create storm systems. And then the ridge that I mentioned is going to move over to the east, and the clockwise flow along around that goes through the Gulf of Mexico and then up north. And so the trough out in the west will provide the storm system, and the ridge off to the east will try to provide some decent moisture here for next week. Now, models aren't great about producing a system there. It's kind of awkward, and without getting a little technical with it, it's not it's a good setup, but it's not a guarantee that we'll get some good rainfall in here. We do have more opportunities going through November though, so we'll see if we can turn things around a bit. But for right now, we're very dry. Every time we get a front, it comes with some strong winds, and that kicks things up and increases the risks of wildfires. We've seen plenty of that happening going on, especially across the Dakotas and Nebraska earlier this month, and it looks to be a continued issue here until we get some more of that beneficial rain. Another thing to talk about too, Caesar, is the water levels on the rivers have been so low. I mean, Helene pumped things up there for a brief period, but other than that, I mean, we've been very low up and down the Mississippi River, the Missouri, and most of the Ohio as well. So It's not great for moving either grain up and down the river systems, or getting supplies up here either with fertilizer and stuff like that. So it's all around. It's been great for harvest, but that's just about it. We're going to need this rain to come back in pretty quickly here. Main influence on our weather. It's not the only thing that influences our weather, but it is the one that impacts us the most. So that's why we spend so much time talking about it. And you hear meteorologists and climatologists talk about it all the time, is because it's not the only one, but it is the biggest driver of weather here for the US.
Can you tell me what is the forecast for this planting season in Brazil?
Yeah, so Brazil, they had a very, very late start in central Brazil to their wet season. Now, they're so close to the equator that they don't have a summer and a winter. It's always hot there. It never really gets cold. They might have a frost very late in their winter, which is our summer, so June or July, but it stays fairly warm. So what they have instead is this wet season where it rains almost every day, or a dry season where it hardly rains at all, and that happens for months on end. Well, since it's a pretty regular occurrence, and you can almost count on it to the day when it's supposed to start. This year was pretty late. It was about 2 weeks too late in central Brazil, so they had some extreme drought conditions there starting up for their planting season, which they tried to get started at the end of September, but they had to hold off about 10 days, about 2 weeks, to start planting there. So they're pretty far behind, and they don't have a very large window. I mean, here in the U.S., we usually have a pretty big window of time where we can plant. They have about 30 days for the entire country to plant their soybean crop there in central Brazil. So with them being 10 days late, that really puts the crunch on them. That really doesn't have a huge impact on their soybean crop. With the wet season now in place, they're getting rainfall several times a week, and it's always thunderstorms, and it's usually pretty heavy. They'll average 8 to 12 inches of rainfall every month down there during the wet season. So their soybean crop, even though it was planted late, will be fine. What really becomes the concern, though, is immediately after they harvest that soybean crop in late January and February, they'll plant their second season corn crop. They call that the safrinha crop. And the safrinha corn crop, what they try to do is get that in the ground and get through pollination while the wet season showers are still around to have good pollination, and then just live off of the built up soil moisture there for filling their grain. And if they can do that, they end up with a pretty decent corn crop. But being planted late, that exposes more of that corn crop to the dry season during pollination. And that would be obviously a big concern. I mean, we don't have to tell folks up here about how bad it is when you don't have any rain, and temperatures are up near 100 degrees during pollination. That's a pretty bad time to be a corn plant. So that's the biggest concern there in central Brazil. Southern Brazil's actually had some pretty good weather so far, and Argentina had been dry for a very long time, but they've gotten much better rainfall over the past several weeks here. So things are looking better down there. But with La Nina coming into play, that typically leads to hotter and drier conditions, especially during their part of the summer, which would be December through February. There for Argentina and southern Brazil, things usually dry out during La Nina. So we'll be watching that to be a concern as well. So there's a lot of weather concerns going on down there in South America, even if for the moment they're actually in a pretty good spot right now.
How is things in the growing region in Mato Grosso and Paraná?
Yes, Mato Grosso is the largest production state there in Brazil, and that was the state that has had the most significant delays to their planning operations so far. Well, that and the nearby state of Goiás as well. So Mato Grosso is like I said, the largest production state. They are the ones that are are significantly behind. Those wet season showers didn't begin until October 10th. Usually it's the last couple of days of September, so they're 2 weeks behind. But the rainfall that has come over the last 2 weeks has been really, really good. So they've been able to build that soil moisture. Those temperatures have come down nicely. Folks are out and planting at a rapid pace, as rapid as they can make it. So they're trying to make up that ground. But for right now, they're in a good spot. The state of Paraná, which is farther south in southern Brazil, is actually part of that area that's had some really good rainfall. They also are they're the Paraná's the second largest production state there for corn and soybeans, and they do the double cropping as well, like Mato Grosso does. So they've been at least on track. The weather's been much better there. Their planting progress is maybe a tick behind normal, but they're pretty close to normal down there. So they're in a good spot there.
Do you have any final thoughts or recap of our conversation?
Yeah, absolutely, Caesar. I mean, we've been dry for a pretty long time. It's been great for harvest, not great for getting moisture back into our soils and setting us up for 2025. We do have some opportunities here both next week and through the month of November, especially the first half of it, where we'll have some opportunities to build some soil moisture in. Doesn't mean we will, and it doesn't mean it'll be widespread, or that it'll be heavy enough to really impact the drought situation that's gotten kind of out of hand here over the last few weeks. But we've got some opportunity for that. La Nina does not give us a lot of opportunity here in the western half of the Corn Belt to continue that. Those in the east probably will, though. So we might end up with some better conditions, even though we're sitting in a pretty sketchy spot right now. And then in South America, things are going good for the moment, but they have those weather concerns. They're late planting their soybeans in central Brazil, and they have a drier forecast coming up for both southern Brazil and Argentina that could cause some havoc as well. So weather's still on our minds all the way through winter.
Thanks, John.
Absolutely, Caesar. Thanks for having me on.
That's John Baranik for DT and on back roads of Illinois. We were back with Nomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing. This break is present by AgriGold for Central Illinois. AgriGold is best variety of seeds in Central Illinois. Find your AgriGold reps for today or AgriGold. Come. This segment is provided by AgriGold for Central Illinois. So we were talking about the commodities markets and watching the cash market in Upper Midwest. What is the production for corn and soybean for next year? Here's Nomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing. How are you today? And how is the corn market for this afternoon?
Well, I'm doing great, Caesar. Thank you so much. The corn and soybean market today inched a little bit higher. So what we saw earlier in the week and late last week, especially for corn and even for soybeans, was some really fantastic export sales with Mexico coming in to buy a large amount of corn at that $4 value point on December corn futures. So to me, it feels right now like even though we've got a pretty big crop out there in the United States, that $4 is really good value on the global scale, as we saw with end users stepping up to secure their needs. And it might be hard for the market to have too much of a rally just because we've got sufficient supplies. For example, nearly 2 billion bushel carryout on U.S. corn. And for ending stocks on soybeans at 550, supplies are good enough for now. but we found some value buying at these lower levels. So that's really encouraging.
What is the prices for the beans markets after this rally for today?
So looking at the November contract, November beans seem to have some, in general, short-term resistance at the $10 area. But if by chance they could get through that, we might see close to a 50% retracement from this slide lower that we had over the past month. And that would get us closer to about 1030 for prices, or 1035. But that would just be another point of probably being able to make value sales, because we're keeping an eye on the weather in South America, which has improved. And so if there's, in my opinion, the only way bean market prices really take off and rally from here would have to be a turn for the worse for weather in South America. So in general, anytime soybeans see a little bit of a bounce here, I think it's going to be a selling opportunity for farmers.
Let's start with our conversation about updating on the harvest progress in southern Wisconsin and in your area at South Bend. Could you tell us how is it?
Well, harvest around here, I would say that the beans are going fast and furious to get harvested. And pretty much bean harvest around here is wrapping up with corn harvest, kind of just getting going. Where I live in Wisconsin, we had a very wet spring. So we're a little bit behind in terms of what we would have for harvest progress, but it's not too terrible. So slow going, but guys are making way. So we're not as fast as the rest of the Midwest, but it's starting to improve.
What is your takes on the cash market in upper Midwest? We talked with Ed Usset from the University of Minnesota yesterday. He told us that he's concerned with the corn basis.
Well, what I'm hearing from my clients on corn basis is that it's quite mixed. In some places in western Wisconsin, I should say northwest Wisconsin, the basis is wide. It's almost 70 cents wide for corn. But then I just heard in a different part of Wisconsin today that there was a basis push. And so it had gone from about 30 under to now 20 under. And in different parts of Iowa, we're hearing different things where basis had widened out with that first part of harvest coming in. But now, to me, it feels like the corn that had to come to town has come to town, and the rest of it might just go home and get locked up in the bins. And so there could be grain elevators who are looking at that and saying, okay, well, let's maybe secure a little bit more corn right now between now and, let's say, Thanksgiving, or now and Christmas, because once that corn goes in the bin, that's going to be in that bin for a while. So basis, to me, based on conversations I've had with my clients, it's really mixed. And part of that is location. Part of that is competition with local demand with feedlots or ethanol plants. So something, of course, to be monitoring, and that cash market always tells us the truth, in my opinion, of what's actually happening with markets.
What is the basis for right now in your area at South Bend?
So where I live around here, the corn basis has been about 35 to 45 cents under.
Let's go to the livestock markets for right now. Naomi, how is the deferred contract?
When you look at those cattle contracts, right now, the nearby December cattle finished today at 188.12. February finished at 188.82. April at 189.50, but then the June actually it drops. The June contract at 182.85, and the August even lower at 180.27. So I feel like the market is aware that in the shorter term, we still have tight supply of cattle, but it also knows that we're balancing the consumer demand along with more imports of cattle. So we do have a cattle on feed report coming up on Friday. That'll give us the next piece of the puzzle. And for where the cattle prices are now, we're back near summer high prices. And for prices to go higher than here, we're going to need a cattle on feed report that's over the top friendly. If we get a neutral report or a bearish report, we're going to see a pretty big correction lower for prices.
Lean hogs markets finished up 8 to 10 cents. But do you have any concerns about the hogs markets?
Well, what's interesting is that hog prices also are kind of back up near some of the previous highs from earlier in the year, so more like March or April. And with box beef prices, even for hog prices working higher, maybe consumers are starting to buy more pork. Maybe they're buying more chicken versus beef, just from a cost perspective. And traders, we're going to keep an eye on cutout values and also on export markets as well. So we'll see if that hog market has a lot of room to go higher yet or not. But it's for prices, it's really had a nice rally over the past 2 or 3 months.
Do you have any final thoughts or recap of our conversation?
Well, the only thing I would encourage farmers to just be aware of is, anytime you see some opportunities with some higher values, make sure that you're capitalizing on it with cash sales. Right now, the perception is that U.S. supply is sufficient and global supply is sufficient. So the only thing that changes that is Mother Nature and what she does with the weather in South America. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then, of course, keeping an eye on all of the geopolitical rumblings around the world.
Where people can find you for your consulting services in the Midwest?
Well, sure. You can go on our website, totalfarmmarketing.com. You can give the office a call and ask for me. So 800-334-9779, or you can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Naomi Bloom.
Thanks, Naomi.
Well, thank you.
That's Naomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing for your commodity commentary on back roads of Illinois. This is close bell numbers of the commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. Corn futures are rallied to up to 8 to 9 cents. Soybean futures finished their high of the day at 8 to 7 cents. Wheat futures finished in up 2 to 4 cents. Let's go with the livestock markets for today's close. Cattle was in the rally to up at 8 to 7 cents. Feeder cattle finished in up 2 to 3 cents. Quarter lean hogs finished in up to 8 to 9 cents. This was the Commodity Markets Update sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. Thanks to John Baranek and Naomi Bloom from Total Farm Marketing on today's program. We're running out of time on our show, but you can listen to our show wherever you get your podcast that's been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. Have a great day.